What is EC2? How do you migrate and optimize EC2? And what are some of the alternatives to using EC2? These are the most common questions asked in interview and in real-world projects. Hi guys and girls, Raj here, back with another video. In this video, we are going to learn about mother of all AWS services, EC2. So we are going to start by learning what is EC2. Then we are going to learn how to determine right type of EC2s for your workload and how to migrate to it. And then we are going to learn how to optimize the EC2s. And finally, we are going to look at some of the alternatives to EC2s. So we have a lot in our plate. Let's get started. Let's start by understanding what is EC2. To do that, let's take an actual example. Let's say you have a computer at home and you use that computer to create and render cat videos. What do you do with those cat videos? Maybe you put them to YouTube, Instagram, and all over the internet. And soon you became popular and people started demanding more and more cat videos from you. So basically, you need to make more cat videos, render more stuff faster. So your current computer cannot support it anymore. You need to go buy a faster computer. So it's a little bit of a hassle, right? Because you have to do some research on what computer you need to buy. Then maybe you need to go to a local store or order online. In case you order it online, you have to wait a couple days to get it. Then you have to install softwares. Make sure you have a new place or new desk for your computer. And then you start creating what you love, cat videos. So now let's think of enterprises. So they do a little bit more intense stuff than cat videos, basically dog videos. So they have these highly powerful servers, which you can think of as a more powerful computer. And these servers reside in a building called data center. So what if a company needs to buy new servers? So it's a way more hassle than buying a personal computer. So basically, it takes months to buy a server in data center. You have to go pick the right model, you have to find the vendor, you have to find the right price, and then you get the server, you have to find a place in your data center, you have to make sure you have enough electricity, you have enough cooling power. So all this can take months. And once you get the server in the data center, it takes weeks to build the surrounding infrastructure and ecosystem, the storage, database, analytics, machine learning, etc. Also, this server is of fixed capacity. Like once you got this box, that's it, you are stuck with it. So what if your demand grows? Then you have to go through this process again. So to solve all this, say hello to Amazon EC2 or Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud. So EC2s are servers. They're also known as compute instances in AWS Cloud. And this is the kicker. These servers are provisioned with few clicks and few minutes. Think about this for a minute. Let's say you are sitting at home or office and you need a more powerful server, maybe to create more cat videos or to handle more traffic in your enterprise. You go to AWS, select the server you want, and boom, you get the server and you can start using it immediately. You don't have to think about where you're gonna put this new computer, whether you have enough power or cooling in your data center. Actually, you don't even need to have a data center. It is also secure, resizable, and scalable. So if your business grows or your traffic increases, you can add more servers easily, or you can scale down as well. And you pay for what you use. So let's say you have some heavy-duty analytics job to run. So you provision a couple of powerful EC2s, you run your jobs, and when the jobs are done, you just go and shut down the EC2s and you stop paying for it. And unlike the server in the data center example, in this case, there is no upfront commitment. If you get a server in a data center and let's say the demand goes down or your project doesn't work out, you are stuck with the server, right? Because you bought it. But in this case, if your project doesn't work out, that's okay. You just shut down the EC2s and move on. This allows you to do more proof of concepts without committing a large sum of money. And another big advantage is this EC2 in AWS Cloud is connected to whole AWS ecosystem instantly. Machine learning, storage, database, etc. No extra time needed to build the ecosystem like your server in your regular data center. So what are some of the EC2 use cases? Anything that runs on server. So basically everything. So you can run web server in it, app server in it, you can run self-managed databases in it, you can run code in it of course, and also you can use EC2s as workstations. However, keep alternative solutions in mind if you want to be architect prime. This comes up a lot during interviews and we are gonna go through this as well. Now that we understand what is EC2, let's take a look at different kinds of EC2 instance types. So there are 5 broad categories: general purpose, compute optimized, memory optimized, accelerated computing, and storage optimized. So I've given brief descriptions on when you will use what, coupled with some use cases and the sample instance family. And to add to the pain, there are different sizes for each instance type. What do I mean by that? So if I go to this M5 general purpose, so you can see there are different instance sizes. So M5 large has 2 vCPU, 8 gigabit of memory. M5 4X large has 16 vCPU, 64 gigabyte of memory, etc. So one question I get a lot: Raj, do I need to remember all these different instance types? So since I work for AWS and I work with different kinds of customers, I do have to remember the EC2 instance type and their purpose. It's impossible to remember all these families. However, for general day-to-day job, you do not need to remember this whole chart. There are a couple things that you should keep in mind. One is there is overlapping between these families. For example, both memory optimized and storage optimized you can use for databases, and depending on the type of database, you will choose the instance type. And the second thing is, even if you don't remember anything, try to remember this M5 and T2. So these are under general purpose instance type. So general purpose is when your apps are using compute, memory, storage, and networking in equal proportions. Most of the stuff that run in IT world, such as web server, app server, or your regular SQL database installed in EC2, you will use the general purpose. And this M5 is super popular instance type. And this T2, I like T2 because T2 Micro is free under AWS free tier, so I use T2 a lot. However, if you are doing a machine learning project or gaming project, then you have to dive deep on this accelerated computing, this P3 type of instances, or the C5 instances. But anyway, if you are preparing for an interview or the AWS Solutions Architect Professional exam, you can take a screenshot of this table and study it on the side if you need to. Okay, so now the basic stuff is done. So let's jump into some of the neat stuff. And these are the stuff that comes up in the interviews or in the real world enterprise projects. Because let's face it, in interviews, no one is going to ask you what is EC2 because EC2 is out for multiple years now. They expect you to know that. However, what they would be interested to know is, let's say you have a data center and you have thousands of servers running in it and you want to migrate to AWS. So how will you choose the EC2 instance type and size for those servers running on-prem? Secondly, how are you going to migrate all those servers from on-prem to AWS? And thirdly, and this is a super hot topic, how are you going to optimize cost of all those EC2s? So for choosing EC2s from on-prem server, so if you are thinking, well, I'm going to check how many CPU cores in on-prem I have, how much RAM I have, and then I'm just going to pick EC2. Number one, that won't be correct because for on-prem server, you almost always overpay. You buy the server to handle the peak load. But the reality is peak load is only present for a very limited amount of time. So the average utilization of the server will be pretty low. So if you just get equivalent EC2 of your on-prem server, you will be wasting a lot of money. Number 2 is you cannot do this manually for each of the server on-prem. Like it's okay for a small mom and pop shop. And that's why enterprises will ask you, right? Because they know it's not possible to do this manually. So how do you do this? So there is a tool called TSO Logic. This is actually acquired by AWS now, where it collects on-prem server data such as traffic, CPU, memory, network, etc. And it is agentless. And then after it collects all those information, it is gonna suggest EC2 instance types and sizes for all those thousands of servers. So this gets you a really good starting point. Also, the big thing is it is free of charge. So there are other third-party tools as well. However, I wanted to give shout out to this tool because it is free of charge and it is agentless. Okay, so at this point, you have the instance type and size of the EC2s that you need to provision in AWS. Next is, how are you going to migrate it? Because in real enterprise, you want to be as less disruptive as possible. So if you just do a plain cutover, most of the times it doesn't work because there will be some data which is getting processed and then you have to get from those logs and apply those, which is okay, but not really time efficient. So here is another tool called Cloud Endear. This is also an AWS company. This tool automates large-scale migration to AWS. It has continuous data replication in background without disruption or performance impact, and you can get the license from AWS Marketplace. Please note that I'm talking about migrating to EC2. If you are thinking about migrating the database from on-prem to AWS, that's another topic, so that we have separate tools for that. Now the most hot topic, how to optimize the EC2 cost. So there is a brand new AWS service announced reInvent 2019, AWS Compute Optimizer. So this service analyzes the running EC2s, the memory and CPU used, and then it runs machine learning algorithms and deliver you recommendation. Like it will say, hey, you are running this M5.4x large EC2, but based on CPU utilization, memory utilization, average traffic, you can downgrade it to M5 large. And there is no additional charge for running AWS Compute Optimizer. Another good tool is AWS Cost Explorer. So it helps you visualize, understand, and manage AWS costs. You can dive deeper to identify trends, and you can pinpoint cost drivers. And this one is really cool. It does a forecast cost, and then it can detect anomalies. And then there are third-party tools as well. Cloud Health, New Relic, Datadog, they are the key players. So this is like a sample screenshot from Cloud Health. So you can see it shows, hey, currently you are doing T2.large, downgrade to T2 medium. You can see it shows average CPU, max memory use, projected cost, recommended savings. So AWS Compute Optimizer gives you similar recommendation reports as well. And there are other ways to save cost. You can utilize reserved instances, savings plan, spot instances. You can set budgets and alarms. And then there are a couple of other fine-tuning techniques such as delete unused hard disks or EBS, stop idle EC2s, etc. I have a separate video on this topic, so I'm going to link it up top. So is everything hunky-dory with EC2s? Not really. So there are some common concerns with EC2, especially for enterprises. So at the end of the day, EC2 is just a server. And in most cases, it will have lower than optimal utilization. So most commonly, what folks will do is like, if they're running a massive server in on-prem, they will just spin up the equivalent EC2s in AWS. And then it's gonna have very little utilization. And then if the cost or governance team goes back to that developer and say, hey, you are running this massive EC2, can you downgrade it? I mean, I was a developer once. The last thing I cared about was cost. So developers will take their own sweet time to downgrade it, right? So cost is always a factor when dealing with EC2s, especially for lift and shift projects. Second is AMI rehydration. So AMI stands for Amazon Machine Image. You can think of it as a blueprint for the EC2. Let's say you have a Linux operating system, and then for your maybe Spring Boot microservices, you need some specific libraries installed, and then your code installed. So you install all that, and then you create this blueprint or AMI. So next time your EC2 comes up, you can use this blueprint and it will have everything baked in it. You don't have to go and install all the stuff using user data or any other installation tool. Problem with that is, since you are baking everything in the AMI, including the operating system will have patches. So every couple months, you have to go and apply the patch, or we call it rehydrate the AMI. So think of this. So you have a bunch of servers running in live in production, and then you have to go rehydrate those AMIs. Kind of a painful process. And also the deployment pipeline can be complex. Like if you have 100 servers running, and if you want to deploy something on specific servers, you have to create deployment group and all that stuff. Which brings us to the next topic, which is also pretty hot, even in interview and also in your real world project. What are some of the alternatives to EC2? So these are some of the areas and alternative considerations. So let's go through this. So let's say you have a microservice running on EC2. So what is the alternative? Alternative is you move that code to Lambda and use API gateway for the API. So not only you save a bunch of cost in most cases, however, it's much easier to maintain and deploy new change for Lambda and API gateway compared to EC2s. Web server running on EC2. So you can do website hosting using S3, and you can use Lambda API gateway for the dynamic content. Databases on EC2. You should always migrate to cloud native service when you can. So you should migrate to Amazon RDS and Amazon Aurora. Especially if you are running something like Oracle on EC2, you should look into migrating to Amazon Aurora, which provides the security, availability, and reliability of commercial databases at 1/10 the cost. NoSQL databases running on EC2, you should think about migrating to DynamoDB or manage Cassandra. So another thing to keep in mind is when you are running this kind of application, let's say microservices, web server, databases on EC2, you have to take care of the scaling, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just a server. So you have to create auto-scaling group, auto-scaling policy. You have to make it highly available, all that stuff. When you migrate to a managed service such as DynamoDB, Lambda API Gateway, Aurora, etc. For example, DynamoDB, Lambda inherently are highly available. You do not have to do anything extra. Alright, so next one, self-managed Kubernetes cluster on EC2. You should look into migrating to EKS, Fargate, or even ECS. Running bunch of machine learning stuff on EC2, you should look into SageMaker. So these are just few of the popular items. When in your project or in an interview this comes up, mention this, and I guarantee you your team members or the interviewer will be impressed. And I like to iterate this. This is one of my favorite principles for designing anything. So always decide based on cost, performance, and use case. You should always use right tool for the right job. Alright guys and girls. So I was going to do a demo on EC2 as well, but this video got super long. However, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. And let me know in the comment section if you want me to make another video on EC2, doing the demo and how EC2 work with auto-scaling group, load balancer, all that good jazz. Alright guys and girls, see you in the next video. Bye!